Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us worldwide. Welcome. There is an entire community around the world that is transforming their relationships with food, and you're invited to be a part of it. I'm Dr. Anita Johnston, psychologist and author of Eating in the Light of the Moon and creator of the online Light of the Moon Cafe, where food for the soul is served. Thank you for joining us at my Light of the Moon channel. I'd love it if you like, subscribe, and share. All those things really help the channel. And thank you for submitting your questions. I'm going to answer them as best I can because it's your efforts to break free from struggles with disordered eating and body image that make this show, largely because of the thoughtfulness and heartfeltness that you put into your questions. I appreciate that so much. So let's begin with the questions. Here's one. I save calories a lot by trying to play it safe. As a result, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night hungry. How can I get over the compulsion to save and play it safe? So, the first thing that jumps out with your question is play it safe. You repeated that twice. So, that tells me that this is an important issue. And the place to look rather than initially or only at what you're doing with food, look to see where in your life you don't feel safe and how come. So, this may be a matter of untreated trauma that might need to get resolved. Where nowadays there are so many different types of body based trauma work that can really be helpful in helping you find a feeling of safety. But also, I would look to see where in your life there's something missing or something that's lacking that would help you feel more safe. For example, do you need better boundaries? Do you need to say no instead of yes to things that you really don't want to do? Is that, of course, we can't always just say yes to what we want and no to what we don't want, but it really should be the lion's share of you saying yes to what you want and no to what you don't want. Because without good boundaries, the world doesn't feel like a very safe place. So I think if I were you, I would really focus on playing it safe and see what that means to you. See what that would look like in your life. What kinds of situations, what kinds of people do you need to surround yourself with in order to have that sense of safety? Okay, here's another one. How how do I get away from living life by shoulds and shouldn'ts? What is that all about anyway? Well, I think you've tapped into what is a primary source of our conditioning or our programming. So we come here to this third dimensional reality, to this planet, and we start to be taught what you should or shouldn't do. Now, granted, there are reasons for that, right? Like children should be taught limits and boundaries should be set. However, what can happen is many of those shoulds and shouldn'ts we take to heart, and we think that that's what's going to tell us who we are, who we should be, who we shouldn't be, rather than as guidelines for maybe how to treat other people. So getting away from shoulds and shouldn'ts requires that you tap into your own desires. So, how do I feel about this situation? What's my reaction to what that person did? How do I feel about being here with these people at this point in time? As opposed to how should I feel, right? We start applying shoulds to feelings, and there's going to be a disconnect because feelings just are. There's no good feelings, bad feelings, right feelings, wrong feelings. There's good and bad behavior and right or wrong behavior, but our feelings? So, a place to start is to allow yourself all the feelings that come up. They're a part of your inner guidance system. And there's no feelings you should or shouldn't feel. So I would begin with that. I would begin with starting to become more and more aware of whatever feelings arise, whether they should or they shouldn't. Okay, here's another question. My eating disorders sway, well, let me get this right. I wasn't reading that right. My eating disorder's sway over me has diminished, but is still present in many aspects of my life. I understand that it no longer serves me, but I still cling to it. Will it always be there? So, to answer the second part first, will it always be there? No, it doesn't have to always be there. I've seen thousands of people totally, completely recover, those with the most severe eating disorders you could imagine, and those that have struggled their entire lives. So, no, it doesn't always have to be there. However, insight alone isn't going to clear it. Insight is when we have these sudden ahas like, oh, this doesn't serve me, right? I know this doesn't serve me. And it can happen instantaneously, and we can be very clear. However, we also need a certain skill set in order to change our behaviors. So even though it's if it's still present, that does mean that it is serving a purpose in the sense that your skill set hasn't yet caught up. So this is the most difficult part of recovery is when we get it. Why am I doing this? I know better, right? So frustrating, but that means the skill that we need to be doing something different isn't fully anchored in, so that there will be times that we'll turn to eating disorder behaviors or thoughts because we haven't yet become skilled enough in asserting ourselves or in setting limits or in being clear about what it is we really want and what it is we don't want. So, all those times that we get disconnected from our authentic self and don't quite yet have the skill to reconnect, we may find ourselves turning to disordered eating thoughts or behaviors. This requires some patience, but stay with it. Continue to cultivate the skills you need so that you can respond differently when the urges to participate in behaviors come up. Hope that helps. All right, here's another one. How how do I increase my nutrition when my activities and meals are ruled by OCD? There are different medications I was on that helped, but that weren't sustainable. And also, I suffer with chronic pain together with depression. So I'm taking additional pain relief and different kinds of medications, but I've got so much pain management that I have to deal with. And so as a result, I can increase my nutrition on once only basis, but I can't maintain it from day to day. Oof. First of all, my heart goes out to you because chronic pain is really, really difficult. And so when we are in pain, whether that's physical pain or emotional pain, which is what we find with depression, we want relief. And not only that, but we want to be soothed and we want to be comforted. And so sometimes we might turn to food to soothe and comfort us. Other times we may reject food because it doesn't do the deal, right? We're in pain, and what good is food going to do? It's not going to comfort us. And so food in a situation like this is really nourishment. And just like you have to take certain pain medications to get the relief you need, that is on par with the amount of nutrition you need in order to go through your daily activities. So this is a situation where working with dietitian along with another care provider, whether it's an allopathic physician or whether it's a naturopath, but so that you really have a team that's giving you tremendous support. Because when you're in a situation like this, that's what's needed. As much support as you can possibly get, because this is a tall order for any one person. So you really do need a team that's working together to support you in getting the relief you need, and so that you're not having to run your mind to track all of this, right? Because that's where the OCD really kicks in when you're trying to do it all. So, my recommendation is that you delegate to different members of your team and ask them for guidance and ask them to work together so that you're not having to sort it all down. And then you can follow their guidance without having to figure it all out. So, again, this is tough. You've got a lot of things going on, which is why you need a lot of support. And I would recommend getting a very tight team because this is a lot for any one person. Hope that helps. Okay, here's one, and I think I answered this earlier, but I'm going to respond to it again. With a 47-year history of anorexia, what if it never gets any easier and I'm stuck like this forever? It's no wonder you would ask that question, right? What if this is as good as it gets? What if I'm stuck like this forever? And again, what I know simply from my experience, and I don't know all the details of your situation, but what I do know is this: there are many, many, many people who have had lengthy struggles with anorexia. And when they would get to the root, or sometimes the roots of the eating disorder, and eradicated them, they were able to get unstuck. And so I think, again, it requires, I believe, focusing on what is driving the anorexic thoughts and behaviors. What is beneath it? It's obvious when we can look and see what the behaviors are, or you may even already be aware of what the thoughts are, but what's beneath that? Because the way I see it is, it's like a weed. If you just cut it off in terms of symptomology, which is what we did way back in the day when nobody knew any better, was just let's just get rid of the symptoms and it would just keep coming back. But if you can go down and clear the root issues, what are they? What is driving this? And address them on multiple levels, on a nutritional level, on a psychological level, on a physiological level, right? Finding that out. Absolutely. I've seen it many, many, many times. You can clear the struggle. So don't give up hope, but keep looking for those that can help you find what is subterranean, right? What is underneath all of this? And I wish you the best with that. So that's it for now. I really appreciate all of your questions. Thank you for submitting them. And I'm going to see you next time here at the Light of the Moon channel. Bye for now.